The night was colder than anything the human explorer had ever felt. The wind howled like a hungry beast across the frozen alien world, carrying sharp blades of snow that cut his face. His boots sank into the deep ice with every step, and the beam of his lamp barely cut through the storm. He wrapped his jacket tighter, his breath forming white clouds that disappeared into the darkness. He had come here for research, to map the strange land and collect samples, but now, far away from his camp, he wondered if he had gone too far. Every direction looked the same white, endless, and deadly. He thought about turning back. Then, through the storm, a sound reached his ears. It was not the wind. It was not an animal. It was something else. He stopped walking. He listened. His heart beat faster in his chest. At first, he thought it was only his imagination, but then he heard it again, faint, broken. Like a whisper carried on the snow. A voice. The human took a cautious step forward. The voice grew clearer. It was crying, "Please. Help, please." His lamp caught a small shadow stumbling across the ice. A tiny figure, half buried in the snow, struggling to walk. The human rushed closer, and when the light finally touched the figure, his eyes widened in shock. It was a child. Not a human child, but an alien. Her skin was pale, almost glowing in the moonlight, and her large, dark eyes shimmered with tears that were freezing against her cheeks. She wore only thin clothes, torn and useless against the deadly cold. Her hands clutched a broken piece of fabric as if it could protect her. She fell to her knees in front of him, shivering so hard she could barely speak. Human. "My mom? She is dying." Dying from the cold, the little alien girl cried, her small voice breaking in the storm. "Please help her." The human froze where he stood. His instincts screamed at him to be careful. He knew the history between humans and this alien race. They did not trust each other. Some even called humans enemies. Could this be a trap? Could soldiers be hiding, waiting for him to lower his guard? He looked around, but the storm was too thick to see anything. Only snow, only shadows. Then he looked down at the girl. Her lips were turning blue, her thin body trembling violently. She tried to stand, but collapsed again, falling face first into the ice. The human's heart twisted inside his chest. Whatever else was true, this child was freezing to death. He knelt beside her and lifted her gently. Her body was frighteningly light, as if she had not eaten for days. He pulled his thermal blanket from his pack and wrapped it around her small frame. She clung to him instantly, like a drowning soul clings to a piece of wood in a storm. "Where is your mother?" he asked quickly. Her trembling hand pointed toward the dark hills in the distance. "Shelter. Broken house. Please. Come fast." He hesitated. His camp was behind him, safe and warm. His supplies, his equipment, his survival all back there. If he went forward into the storm, he might never find his way back. He might die with them. The girl's voice cut through his doubt. She will not make it. If you don't come now." The human's jaw tightened. He looked into her wide, desperate eyes, and for a moment he did not see an alien. He saw a child begging for her mother's life. He could not turn away. "All right," he said, his voice steady. "Show me the way." The girl nodded weakly and clung tighter to his arm. Step by step, he followed her through the storm. The cold bit deeper into his bones, and every gust of wind tried to push him back. But he pressed on, his lamp cutting a thin path of light through the white void. Strange sounds echoed in the distance, the cries of predators that roamed these frozen lands. His hand stayed near his weapon, his eyes scanning every shadow. The girl leaned against him, whispering through chattering teeth, "Hurry. She's waiting. She's dying." The human's heart pounded. Every second felt heavy, every step dangerous. But he knew one thing, now this was no trap. The fear in the child's voice was too real, too raw. Somewhere ahead, in the ruins of a broken shelter, a mother was fighting for her last breath. The storm grew worse. His lamp flickered, threatening to die. For a terrifying moment, he thought he had lost his way, that the storm had swallowed them whole. Then, through the blizzard, a faint shadow appeared, a crooked shape. Half buried in snow, the girl pointed with the last of her strength. There. The human's pulse raced. They had reached the shelter, but deep inside, he knew the real test was only beginning. The shelter was nothing more than a ruin. The roof was broken, the walls cracked, and snow had poured inside like a thief. The human's lamp revealed shattered beams and frost-covered stones. It looked abandoned for years, a place no living being should remain in. Yet from inside came a faint sound, a slow, shallow breath. The little alien girl stumbled forward, clutching the human's hand. Her body shook with both fear and cold. "Mother, please." "I brought help," she whispered, voice breaking like fragile glass. The human stepped inside, his boots crunching over ice. His lamp's beam stopped on a figure lying near the wall. It was the girl's mother. She was tall compared to the child, but her body was curled tightly, trying to hold in what little warmth she had left. Her skin, once bright and glowing like her daughter's, was now pale, almost gray. Her lips were cracked, her breath so faint he thought she might already be gone. Snow clung to her clothes, and frost crystals glittered in her hair. The girl fell to her knees beside her mother and shook her gently. "Mama, Mama, wake up." No answer came. The human knelt too, checking closer. His heart grew heavy. The woman's pulse was weak, her skin like ice. Hypothermia had already sunk deep into her body. She would not last long without heat. The girl turned her wide, desperate eyes on him. "Save her, human, please. You are warm, you can help." He froze for a moment. He was only one man, far from camp, far from his own safety. His heating pack was running low, and if he gave it all away, he too might freeze before reaching shelter again. Every survival instinct screamed at him to protect himself first, but the child's voice shook him. The way she clung to his arm, the way her tears froze before they could even fall lit, was the kind of raw fear that could not be faked. He pulled out his emergency thermal blanket and wrapped it around the mother's body. It wasn't enough. Her skin was too cold, her breathing too shallow. She needed more than just covering. She needed heat, dash now. The girl whispered again, her voice soft and trembling. You have fire inside you. Please share it." The human understood. His body heat. He hesitated. This was not part of his mission, not part of his orders. To press close to her, to give her his warmth, would risk his own life. And yet, if he didn't, the alien woman would surely die before the storm cleared. Taking a steady breath, he unzipped his jacket and pulled the unconscious woman against him, chest to chest. The shock of her coldness nearly stole his own breath. It was like hugging ice itself. He wrapped the blanket tightly around both of them, holding her close, willing his warmth to pass into her. The little girl leaned in too, pressing against her mother's other side, tears spilling silently. For a long moment, there was only the sound of the storm outside and their shallow breaths. Minutes crawled like hours. The human felt his strength draining. The cold ate into him even through the blanket. His fingers grew stiff, his lips numb. He thought bitterly that perhaps he had traded one life for two deaths. Then faintly, her chest rose deeper. The alien mother's breathing grew a little stronger. A small sigh escaped her lips, and her head shifted slightly. The girl gasped. "Mama, she's moving." Relief filled the human's chest, but he dared not stop. Not yet. He tightened his hold, ignoring his own shaking. Just then, a sound cut through the storm, a sound that did not belong to wind or snow. Heavy footsteps. The crunch of boots. The human's head snapped toward the doorway. Shadows moved in the blizzard outside. His hand reached instinctively for the weapon at his side. The girl's eyes widened in fear. No, no, not them. Before he could ask, shapes appeared at the entrance. Tall figures armored in metal and fur, carrying glowing spears that lit the storm like fire. Alien soldiers. Their leader stepped forward, his eyes narrowing at the sight before him. A human holding their unconscious woman, the child clutching his arm. His face twisted with anger. "What have you done to her?" the soldier demanded, voice sharp like a blade. The human's blood ran colder than the storm. He was trapped inside the ruin, exhausted, holding their dying woman in his arms. To them, it must look like he had harmed her, not saved her. The soldiers raised their spears. Glowing tips pointed at his chest. The girl cried out, throwing herself in front of him. "No, no, he saved us. He saved Mama." The leader did not lower his weapon. Suspicion burned in his eyes. Why would a human save one of us? Why would he risk his life for an enemy? The human's grip tightened on the weak woman. He could feel her faint heartbeat against him, a fragile proof of life. If they struck now, if they dragged him away, she would not survive. He met the soldier's gaze, steady but weak, his breath steaming in the frozen air. Because no one deserves to die like this, not even an enemy. For a moment, silence hung heavy in the ruined shelter. The storm raged outside, the spears glowed brighter, and the girl sobbed into her hands. Then, faint as a whisper, the woman in his arms stirred. Her lips parted, and a broken word escaped. The soldiers leaned closer to hear, and what she whispered was enough to change everything. The shelter shook as the storm howled outside, but inside, time seemed frozen. The alien soldiers stood with glowing spears aimed at the human, their faces hard and cold. The little girl clung to his arm, crying, begging them to stop. Then the mother, weak and trembling, whispered again. Her voice was soft, almost lost in the storm. But the soldiers heard it. "He saved me." The words broke the silence. The leader of the soldiers frowned, his sharp eyes narrowing. "Saved you." The human felt the woman stir slightly in his arms. Her lips moved again, though it was a struggle. "Warmth," he gave. "Warmth." The child nodded quickly, desperate. Yes, he kept her alive. He held her when she was cold like ice. He did not hurt her. He helped us. The soldiers exchanged looks, unsure. Their leader's grip on the spear tightened, but he did not strike. His gaze locked on the human, studying him as if trying to see into his very soul. The human's body trembled. He had given away most of his heat to the alien woman, and now his own strength was slipping. His skin was numb, his fingers stiff. Even his breath came shallow, fogging weakly in the air. But he did not let go. He kept holding her, pressing his warmth into her freezing body. He had already made his choice. If this was the end for him, at least the girl would not lose her mother tonight. The little girl's small hand touched his arm, her eyes wide with gratitude. "Don't leave us," she whispered. "Please don't." His chest tightened. It had been years since anyone had spoken to him with such pure need. He had been alone so long on his missions, wandering strange worlds with no family, no children, no one waiting. And now here, in the middle of an alien storm, a child clung to him as if he were the only hope left in her universe. Slowly, the alien mother's breathing grew stronger. The faint gray color of her skin began to fade, replaced by a soft glow returning beneath. She stirred again, her eyes half opening. Weak, yes, but alive. The soldiers lowered their spears slightly, doubt flickering in their eyes. But the leader was not convinced. "Why?" he demanded harshly. "Why would a human risk his own life to save one of us? You think we will believe this so easily?" The human met his gaze, his teeth chattering from cold. "Because she's her mother," he said, nodding toward the child. "And no child should watch their mother die when I can stop it." For a long moment, the soldier said nothing. The storm's roar filled the silence. Then, with a sharp motion, the leader lowered his spear. "Enough. If she dies, it will not be by his hands." He motioned to the others. "Bring heat packs, now." 2 soldiers obeyed quickly, handing over small glowing stones that pulsed with warmth. They placed them near the mother's body, adding precious heat. The girl gasped in relief, hugging her mother's arm tightly. The human sagged back, exhausted. His vision blurred, the edges of the world growing dark. He had given too much of himself. The little girl's cry rang in his ears. "He's freezing. Help him too." The leader hesitated. His soldiers looked at him, waiting. Would they save a human? An enemy? The human tried to speak, but his lips barely moved. He could not feel his hands anymore. The storm had taken more from him than he had realized. The girl's voice rose higher, desperate. "Please, please, don't let him die. He saved us." For the first time, the leader's hard eyes softened. He looked at the girl, her tears, her shaking frame, her pure belief. Then he gave a sharp order. "Save him." A soldier pressed one of the glowing stones against the human's chest. The warmth burned at first, painful against his frozen skin, but then it spread, chasing the numbness from his bones. His breathing deepened. His strength flickered back like a weak flame refusing to die. He coughed, gasped, and slowly his vision cleared. The girl threw her arms around him, sobbing with joy. "You're alive. You're still alive." The human gave a weak smile, patting her head gently. "Told you. I wouldn't leave you." The mother stirred again, her voice clearer this time. She looked at him with weak but grateful eyes. "Human. Thank you." The soldiers stepped back, no longer aiming their weapons. The leader still looked troubled, but his voice was less harsh now. "You have done something no human has done in years. You gave yourself for one of us." T paused. "But do not think this ends suspicion." The human only nodded. He was too tired to argue. For him, it was simple. He had saved a life. That was enough, but deep in his chest, something new stirred. Something dangerous. Because now he had seen the child's tears, felt her hand gripping his arm, heard her call him hope. He had saved them. And that meant their lives were tied to his. Outside, the storm still raged. And hidden within it, something moved a shadow larger than the soldiers. Larger than any beast he had ever seen. The girl's small hand gripped his tighter, as her eyes flicked to the broken doorway. "Something's coming." She whispered. The storm roared outside the ruined shelter, but inside it was quiet, too quiet. The human sat weakly against the wall, his body still shaking from the cold. The little alien girl stayed close, refusing to let go of his arm. Her mother, though still weak, was breathing stronger now. The glow slowly returning to her skin. The soldiers stood around them, their glowing spears dimmed, but still in hand. They were not at ease. Their eyes never left the human. He could feel their suspicion like sharp knives against his skin. Finally, the leader stepped forward, his voice cold. "You may have saved her life, but that does not erase who you are. A human, and humans are not trusted here." The girl's eyes widened. She quickly stood in front of the human, her arms spread out like a tiny shield. "No, he is good. He saved Mama when no one else was here. You cannot hurt him." The leader's jaw tightened. He looked at the child, but did not soften. Child, you don't understand. Humans have taken much from our people. They betrayed us before, and they will betray again. The human tried to speak, his voice rough. I don't know your wars. I don't know your history. All I know is she was dying, and I couldn't let that happen. One of the younger soldiers stepped closer, glaring. Or maybe you wanted her alive for questions, for experiments. Maybe this is your trick. The human's chest tightened with anger. He wanted to shout back, but his exhaustion weighed him down. Instead, he forced himself to meet their eyes. If I wanted harm, I wouldn't have nearly frozen to death trying to save her. The girl tugged on her leader's arm, her small voice pleading. Please, believe me, please. He is not like the others. But the leader shook his head. His suspicion was deep, carved by years of mistrust. He motioned to two soldiers. Take him. He will come with us for answers. The girl cried out. No, no, you can't take him. She clung tighter to the human's arm, tears streaming down her face. He saved us. You can't treat him like an enemy. The human put a weak hand on her shoulder. It's all right, he whispered. Let them do what they must. But even as he said it, a spark of unease burned inside him. He had risked everything to save their mother, yet now he might be dragged away in chains. The mother stirred then, her voice faint but strong enough to reach them. Stop. The soldiers froze. Slowly, she opened her eyes fully, looking straight at their leader. Her voice trembled but carried weight. He is no enemy. He gave his warmth when the cold had nearly taken me. Without him, I would already be dead. The leader hesitated, but suspicion still flickered in his eyes. And yet, why would a human do this? What does he want in return? The mother's gaze shifted to the human. She studied his tired face, the frost still clinging to his hair, the way he shook from giving too much of himself. She saw no trick there, only sacrifice. He wants nothing, she whispered. He gave because it was right. For the first time, silence fell heavy between them all. The storm outside still screamed, but inside, every eye was on her. The human lowered his head, exhausted. I didn't do it for thanks. I did it because she begged me. Because I couldn't let a child lose her mother. The girl hugged him tighter, nodding quickly. See, he is good. He is good. The younger soldier muttered angrily, but the leader raised a hand to silence him. His face was unreadable. Slowly, he lowered his spear completely. Very well. For now, you remain here. But know this, human your kind has burned us before. If you prove false, there will be no second mercy. The human gave a tired nod. Fair enough. The soldiers lowered their weapons, but the air was still tense. Trust had not been won, only borrowed then. Suddenly, the shelter trembled. A deep, echoing sound shook the walls, louder than the storm itself. The girl gasped and clutched her mother's hand. The human's heart skipped a beat. That sound was not thunder. It was something alive. The leader's face hardened. He motioned to his soldiers, their spears flaring brighter. The storm hides more than snow tonight. The girl whispered, eyes wide with fear. It followed us. It found us. The human turned to her quickly. What followed you? Her lips trembled. The beast. The one that hunts the weak. It never stops until it eats. Another roar shook the night. This one closer. So close, the ground itself seemed to tremble. The soldiers moved into position, forming a wall near the broken entrance. The human struggled to stand, his body weak but his instincts sharp. He would not sit still while danger closed in. The leader glanced at him sharply. Stay back, human. This is not your fight. But the human shook his head, gripping the side of the broken wall for balance. If it comes for her, or the child, it's my fight too. The leader stared at him, surprised by the fire in his eyes. For a brief second, something like respect flickered there. Then the roar came again, shaking the shelter. Snow fell from the roof as heavy steps approached. The shadow of something massive loomed in the storm outside. The girl's hand clutched the humans tightly, her small voice trembling. "Don't leave us, please." And as the shadow moved closer, the human knew that saving the mother had only been the beginning. Asterisk snowflakes whipped into the ruined shelter, carried by the fierce wind. The human sat near the cracked wall, his body weak, his hands trembling after giving so much warmth to the alien mother. The little girl stayed close, her small arms clinging to him as though he were the last solid thing in a world of storms. The alien mother stirred faintly under the blanket, her faint glow slowly returning. But she was still fragile, her breaths shallow. The soldiers who had entered stood in a circle, their glowing spears raised. They did not lower them, not even when they saw signs of life flicker back into their kin. The leader, tall and broad, stepped forward. His eyes were like steel. "What have you done to her, human?" His voice was hard, echoing over the wind. The human, exhausted, forced his voice to steady. "I kept her alive. Without me, she would have been gone." The little girl nodded fiercely, her tear-streaked face pale with fear. She clutched the leader's armor. "It's true. He saved Mama. Please, don't hurt him." But suspicion did not fade. One soldier spat on the floor and snarled, "Lies. Why should we trust him? Humans trick. Humans take. That is all they do." The human's jaw tightened, but he stayed calm. "If I meant harm, I would not be half-frozen here. I risked my life because your child begged me." The girl tugged on her leader's cloak again, her voice shaking. "Please, Captain. He saved us. He gave Mama his heat. He made her breathe again." The leader's eyes flickered with doubt for a second, but mistrust was carved deep into him. He motioned to two of his men. "Restrain him. We will take him for questioning. If he lies, his life is forfeit." The girl gasped, throwing herself in front of the human. "No, you can't. He is good." She turned to the human, her little hands gripping his sleeve. "Don't let them take you. Don't leave us." The human felt her fear, raw and trembling. For a brief moment he wanted to fight back, but his body was weak and his strength fading. Still, he raised his voice with what little power he had. "Listen to me," he said, staring at the soldiers. "Your mother still breathes because of me. If you take me away now, she might not last. Do you want that on your hands?" The soldiers paused. The mother stirred faintly, her lips moving, though her voice was weak. "Enough," she whispered. "Stop this madness." All eyes turned to her. She tried to sit up, her body shaking, but her eyes burned with a fierce light. "He saved me. He gave what little he had left. Without him, my daughter would be an orphan." The leader's brows furrowed. Why would a human do such a thing? Her gaze shifted to the human. Her cracked lips trembled into a faint smile. "Because he has a heart warmer than the firestones you carry." For a long moment, the shelter was filled only by the sound of the storm. The soldiers lowered their weapons slightly, but tension still crackled in the air. The human sagged against the wall, his body drained, but his eyes stayed sharp. "I didn't do this to earn your trust. I did it because she asked me. Because no child should watch her mother die." The girl's eyes welled up again. She pressed her face into his arm, whispering, "Don't let them take you. Please, don't go." The leader exhaled slowly, his face unreadable. Finally, he lowered his spear. "Very well. You live, for now. But know this: if you betray us, not even the storm will hide you from my judgment." The human gave a faint nod. "Fair enough." For a moment, it seemed calm had returned. The soldiers stood down, the mother rested, and the girl clung to him with relief. But then a sound broke through the storm, a roar. Low at first, then rising, shaking the walls of the shelter. The girl's face went pale. Her small fingers dug into the human's arm. "It's here," she whispered, terror in her voice. The leader's head snapped toward the doorway, his spear glowing brighter. "Form ranks. Ready yourselves." The human forced himself to his feet, though his legs trembled. His instincts screamed at him whatever was out, there was no ordinary predator. The girl's whisper trembled in his ear. "The beast followed us. It hunts the weak. It will not stop." Another roar, closer this time. The ground itself quivered, snow falling from the broken beams above. The soldiers tightened their line, their eyes wide but determined. The human stood beside them, breath short, his hand ready on his weapon. The leader glanced at him sharply. "Stay back. This is not your fight." But the human shook his head. "If it comes for her, or the child, it's my fight too." For the first time, the leader's eyes softened with something like respect. He gave a short nod. The roar came again, thunderous. As a massive shadow darkened the doorway, the girl squeezed the human's hand tightly, whispering in fear, "Please, don't leave us." And as the shadow of the beast filled the storm, the human knew that saving the mother was only the beginning of the true battle. Asterisk. The shelter shook as the roar of the beast echoed through the storm. Snow blasted in through the broken roof, and the shadows outside grew darker, larger, heavier. The alien soldiers tightened their grip on their glowing spears. Their eyes flashing with fear, they tried to hide. The human steadied himself against the wall. His body was weak, but adrenaline pushed through his veins. He had faced wild predators before, but the sound of this creature was unlike anything he had known. It was not just hunger in that roar, it was rage. The little alien girl clung to his arm, her voice trembling. "It found us. It never stops until it eats." Her mother, still weak but awake, tried to lift her head. She looked toward the storm, her voice a whisper. "The eye stalker." The leader barked orders. "Form the line. Keep the child and the wounded safe." The soldiers moved into position, spears glowing brighter as they chanted in their language. Preparing for battle, the human pulled the girl behind him. His hand hovered near his weapon, though he knew it might not be enough against such a beast. "Stay low," he told her. "Don't move unless I say." The storm split with a deafening growl. And then it appeared. The beast was massive, its body, like a mix of wolf and bear, but armored with plates of frozen ice. Its eyes glowed pale blue, and every breath was a cloud of frost. Huge claws dug into the snow, slicing the ground as if it were paper. When it roared again, the shelter itself shook, and even the soldiers staggered. The girl whimpered. The mother's weak hand reached for her. "Don't look at it, my child," the beast charged. The soldiers met it with a wall of spears, their glowing tips striking against its armored chest. Sparks and ice shards flew, but the creature barely slowed. With a swipe of its massive claw, 2 soldiers were thrown across the snow, their weapons scattering. The human's instincts kicked in. He pulled the girl aside just as the beast's claws ripped through the wall where they had been standing. The ruin cracked, snow pouring in, and the storm's cold bit deeper into the shelter. The leader shouted, stabbing his spear into the creature's side. The glow burned into its skin, making it shriek in pain. But it was not enough. The beast twisted, biting down on the spear and snapping it like a twig. The human's heart raced. He knew they couldn't win by strength alone. He reached into his pack, pulling out one of his last human devices and emergency flare. With a snap, he lit it, and red fire blazed against the snow. The creature's head whipped toward the light, its icy eyes narrowing. The human shouted, waving the flare, drawing its attention away from the soldiers. "Come on, monster. Over here." The girl gasped. "No, don't." But it was too late. The beast lunged at him. The human dove aside, the flare burning bright in his hand. The creature's claws scraped against the ground where he had stood, missing him by inches. The heat from the flare made its icy armor steam. And for the first time, it recoiled, screeching in pain. The soldiers saw their chance. "Now?" the leader roared. They thrust their spears into the beast's exposed chest. The glow burned deeper this time, making the creature thrash wildly. Snow and ice flew in every direction. The human stumbled, nearly dropping the flare. But the little girl caught his arm, steadying him. Her eyes shone with both fear and admiration. "You're fighting for us." He gave her a weak smile. "I told you I won't leave you." Finally, with one last strike from the leader's spear, the beast roared in pain and turned, retreating into the storm. Its shadow disappeared into the blizzard, but its growls echoed long after, promising it would return. The shelter fell silent. The soldiers panted heavily, their armor cracked, their spears dimming. The leader turned to the human, his expression unreadable. "You drew it away. Without that, we might have all died." The human only nodded, his body swaying with exhaustion. He slumped back against the wall, the flare sputtering out in his hand. The girl hugged him tightly. "You saved us again." But then, the alien mother spoke, her voice stronger than before. Everyone turned to her. She looked directly at the human, her eyes deep with memory. "You remind me of something. Long ago," she whispered. "Something most of my people have forgotten." The leader frowned. "What do you mean?" The mother coughed, then continued. "Before the wars, before the betrayals, there was a time when humans and our kind were allies. We fought side by side against the darkness of the void. We trusted you once." The human's eyes widened. "Allies." She nodded weakly. But then, lies spread. Accidents turned into blame. We were told humans broke faith, abandoned us. That is what my people remember. That is why they hate you." The soldiers shifted uncomfortably, some looking away. The leader scowled. "Those are old stories. What has that to do with now?" The mother's voice grew firm. "It means we may have been wrong. This human gave warmth when he had nothing left. He faced the beast when even our own feared. He fights not as an enemy, but as a brother." The girl gripped the human's arm tighter, her voice soft but sure. "I told you, he is good." For a moment, silence hung heavy. Snow fell through the broken roof, and the storm raged outside, but inside. Her words carried weight. The leader's eyes narrowed. He still looked conflicted, but the seed of doubt had been planted. The human leaned his head back, his body trembling from exhaustion. He had not expected to hear this truth. If what she said was real, then everything between their peoples had been built on lies. And yet, before he could ask more, another roar shattered the night. The beast had not gone far. It was coming back. Asterisk. The roar shook the ruined shelter again. Louder, closer. Snow fell from the broken beams, and the ground trembled beneath their feet. The beast had returned. The human forced himself upright, every muscle aching. He could barely stand, but he would not sit still while death closed in. The little alien girl clung to him, her wide eyes filled with terror. Her mother, still weak but stronger than before, tried to sit up, whispering, "It will not stop. Not until we are all dead." The soldiers shifted nervously, spears glowing again. The leader raised his weapon, his jaw tight. "It's wounded. It will strike harder this time." The human's voice was low, steady. "Then we hit harder, too." The leader glanced at him, surprised. "You would fight with us? After everything?" The human met his gaze firmly. "I already did, and I will again. Because if it takes her," he nodded toward the girl, "then none of this matters." The leader hesitated, then gave a sharp nod. "Stand with us then, human. Tonight, we fight together." Another roar cut through the storm as the beast's massive shape appeared again, its glowing eyes piercing the blizzard. It was bleeding where the spears had struck, but the wounds only made it angrier. Its breath fogged the air like poison, freezing the ground where it landed. The human pulled out the last flare from his pack. He only had one left. His heart pounded. This was their final chance. The beast charged. The soldiers braced their spears, forming a wall. The human lit the flare, its red glow burning against the white storm. He ran out from the shelter, waving it high. "Come on, over here." The beast roared, its icy armor steaming at the sight of the fire. It swung its massive claw, smashing into the ground where he had just been. Snow blasted upward, nearly throwing him off his feet. The soldiers struck, driving their spears into its flank. Sparks and shards flew, the creature shrieking in fury. Still, it fought back, snapping one soldier in its jaws and hurling him aside. The little girl screamed. The human's chest burned with rage. He shouted at the soldiers, his voice sharp like a command. "Don't aim for the armor, it's too thick. Go for the joints." The eyes. The leader's eyes widened, but then barked to his men. "Do as he says." Together, they shifted their strikes, driving spears into the softer spots where the beast's frozen plates overlapped. The creature howled, thrashing wildly. The human sprinted closer, slamming the flare against the beast's shoulder. Fire clung to its icy hide, hissing and steaming. The monster roared, twisting violently. But the heat weakened its armor just enough. The leader thrust his glowing spear straight into the burning crack. The beast shrieked, stumbling backward. Its claws raked across the snow, missing the human by inches. The little girl watched, tears frozen on her cheeks. She whispered like a prayer, "Please, please don't die." The beast staggered, but did not fall. With a roar of fury, it turned its glowing eyes on the shelter where the mother lay. "No!" The human shouted. He ran, stumbling through the snow, trying to get between the beast and the broken wall. The soldiers moved too, but they were slower. The creature raised its claw, ready to crush everything inside. The human dove forward, throwing himself in front of the blow. His arms raised, he braced for the strike, but it never came. The leader's spear pierced the beast's throat at the last second, glowing brighter than ever before. The creature choked, its roar cut short. Its massive body thrashed once, twice, then collapsed into the snow with a heavy crash that shook the ground. For a long moment, the only sound was the storm. Then silence. The human lay in the snow, gasping for breath, the flare sputtering out beside him. His body shook from exhaustion, but he was alive. The little girl ran to him, throwing her arms around his chest. "You did it. You saved us again." The leader stood over the fallen beast, his chest heaving. He looked at the human for a long time, then lowered his spear. "You fought as one of us tonight. Without you, we would have all been dead." The human sat up weakly, shaking his head. "No, without all of us, none of us would have lived. We did it together." The mother's weak voice carried across the shelter. "Yes, together." She pushed herself upright, her eyes glowing faintly once more. "Do you see now? He is not our enemy. He is proof that what we lost may still be found." The soldiers shifted uncomfortably. Some looked at the human with less suspicion, others still uncertain. But something had changed. A seed of trust had been planted in the snow. The leader gave a slow nod. "Perhaps." Perhaps we were wrong about your kind. Perhaps there is more to humans than old stories of betrayal." The human exhaled, relief washing over him. For the first time since stepping into this storm, he felt hope flicker. But before anyone could speak further, a new sound rose from the distance. Another roar. Not one beast. Many. The storm carried the cries of a pack, echoing across the frozen land. The little girl's hand tightened around the human's arm, her eyes wide with fear. "There's more." The leader's face hardened. He raised his spear again. This was only the first. The real fight has yet to begin. The human's heart pounded. He looked out into the blizzard, where multiple shadows moved in the white haze. And he knew then this night was far from over. The storm howled louder than ever, and from within the blizzard came more roars deep, echoing, endless. The little alien girl pressed herself against the human's side, her small hand gripping his sleeve so tightly her knuckles turned white. Her wide eyes stared into the swirling snow where shadows moved. "There's more of them," she whispered, her voice shaking. The human's chest tightened. One beast had nearly destroyed them all. Now there were many. He pulled the girl closer, shielding her with his arm. "Stay behind me, no matter what happens." The alien leader raised his glowing spear, his face grim. "A pack of ice stalkers? If we fall, they will leave nothing behind." The soldiers formed a line again, but their numbers were fewer now. Some lay wounded in the snow. Their breaths came hard. Their eyes filled with fear they could not hide. The mother leaned against the wall, pale but determined. She raised her weak voice. "You cannot fight them alone. You must fight together, human and alien, side by side." The leader's eyes flicked toward the human. For the first time, there was no hate, there were only resolve. He gave a sharp nod. "Stand with us then, human. Tonight, we live or die as one." The human drew his weapon. His body ached, his strength nearly gone, but his heart burned like fire. He looked at the girl, who was trembling but brave. "Stay with your mother. I'll come back for you." She grabbed his arm desperately. "Promise me." He crouched, looking her in the eyes. "I promise." The first beast emerged from the storm, its icy armor glinting in the faint light. Then another and another, their glowing eyes piercing the snow. A dozen shapes circled the shelter, growling, their claws crunching into the frozen ground. The leader lifted his spear high. "Hold the line." The pack attacked. The first beast lunged, slamming into the soldier's wall. Spears struck, glowing tips burning into its chest. The human darted forward, his blade slicing into the softer joint of its leg. The creature roared in pain, collapsing into the snow. Another beast came from the side, jaws wide. The leader met it head-on, driving his spear deep into its throat. Blood and ice sprayed across the ground. The human fought beside them, his movements sharp and desperate. Each strike cost him strength, but he did not stop. His heart pounded with one thought only: keep the girl and her mother alive. The beast circled, attacking from all sides. Claws tore through armor, teeth sank into flesh. Soldiers fell, but they fought even as they bled. The human's arm burned with pain where a claw had raked him, but he pushed through, slamming his weapon into another beast's eye. The girl screamed from the shelter. "Behind you?" He spun just in time, raising his arm as another beast lunged. Its massive jaws closed around his sleeve, pulling him down. Snow filled his mouth as he hit the ground. The beast snarled, pressing its weight onto him. The leader's spear struck from the side, stabbing into the beast's ribs. It howled, rearing back, giving the human a chance to roll free. He gasped for air, snow burning his lungs. The leader pulled him up. "Stay standing, human. We need you." The human nodded, spitting blood. "I'm not done yet." The battle raged on, the storm screaming around them. Every time a beast fell, two more pressed forward. The pack was endless, merciless. The mother watched with tears in her eyes. Her voice, though weak, carried across the chaos. "He is proof. Proof that we were wrong about humans." Her words struck the soldiers' hearts. They roared in unison, their spears blazing brighter, their strikes sharper. For the first time, they fought not just to survive, but with belief that together they could win. The human felt it too. His weakness faded beneath a surge of purpose. He fought with everything he had, side by side with the soldiers. Their movements, once separate, now flowed as one. Spears and steel struck in rhythm. Finally, the leader shouted, "Now, end them." The human charged the largest beast, the one that towered above the rest. He drove his blade into its eye, even as it struck him across the chest. Pain exploded through him, but he held firm. The leader's spear pierced the other side of its head. Together, they brought the monster crashing down. The ground shook. Silence followed. One by one, the other beasts fled back into the storm, their glowing eyes vanishing into the snow. The pack was broken. The human collapsed to his knees, gasping, blood staining the snow beneath him. The little girl ran to him, throwing her arms around his neck. "You kept your promise," she whispered, sobbing. "You came back." He hugged her weakly, his chest aching. "I told you. I wouldn't leave you." The leader approached, his spear lowered. His eyes, once filled with suspicion, now held respect. "You fought with honor, human. You bled for us. You saved us." The mother smiled faintly, her weak glow returning. "Perhaps this storm did not come to kill us, but to remind us that we can still trust, that we can still stand together." The soldiers bowed their heads, their voices soft. Together. The human looked at the girl in his arms, then at the mother, then at the soldiers who had once wanted him dead. For the first time, he felt something stronger than survival. Hope. The storm still raged outside, endless and wild, but inside the broken shelter, warmth had returned not just from fire or flares, but from trust, and as the girl clung to him, whispering, "Don't leave us ever," the human knew that tonight, in the frozen wasteland, two worlds had taken their first step toward peace.